In this episode, I'll be sharing why impatience in manifesting is giving the universe the ick. So let's get started.
Hi, I'm Katie, and after many years as a struggling single mum, I transformed into a highly successful manifester with multiple businesses, better relationships, financial abundance, and way more peace, joy, and happiness in my life. Each week, I share the real secrets around how to manifest successfully, as well as the amazing and sometimes crazy lessons I've learned along the way, so that you can apply it all to your own manifesting, transforming your life from the inside out. This is That Manifesting Podcast.
Welcome back to That Manifesting Podcast. I have got a juicy episode for you this week. Early warning, it might feel a little bit confronting because this is something that I see probably 99% of my clients doing, and we need to stop it. And that thing is being impatient. Now, I'm not going to preach to you the way I normally do because I am queen of impatience, and I proved that to myself very recently when I ordered a brand new phone. I immediately wanted the phone next day delivery. The joys of modern life, hey? You order something and then expect it the next day. And immediately I didn't have any trust and confidence in the phone company that they were going to deliver my phone the next day. I was whittling about it. I couldn't stop thinking about it. I kept checking the delivery update to see if it was on the way. And sure enough, the whole thing went to pot. And I didn't get my phone the next day. It all went horribly wrong. And I firmly believe that's because I spent a good 24 hours glued to the delivery status page and convincing myself that my phone wasn't going to arrive. In that moment, I'd become the unaware manifester yet again. I make this mistake so many times. And if you don't know, the unaware manifester is the person that manifests the exact opposite of what they want because of how they're putting things out into the universe. For me, I was putting out an obscene level of impatience. And what I did was I was going through all the scenarios. Okay, so what's going to happen if it doesn't come? What am I going to do? I'm going to be so angry. And that's exactly what happened. That is a short version of a 4 to 5 day long story. That's how long it actually took me to get my phone. I could have pulled my own hair out by the end of it. But needless to say, I ended up getting my phone. But that hadn't stopped me becoming the unaware manifester. And when I thought back on it, it was a little bit uncomfortable for me because I realised that impatience has been a major pattern in my life. I've had it in dating. I don't know if you can resonate with this, but if I'm dating and I kind of like somebody, I suddenly go to this place of thinking, well, if he hasn't called me by 5 o'clock on Friday, then he's obviously not interested. Or if he doesn't reply to my text message in the next 30 minutes, then he obviously doesn't like me as much as I like him. It's that level of impatience. And of course they didn't call because A, they probably weren't interested, but more importantly, my needy, impatient, love me energy was what I was manifesting. I was just manifesting more opportunities to feel that neediness and that impatience because that's what I was projecting. Over the years, I've noticed that it's not just me that is a hugely annoying, impatient idiot. But impatience is a big block for many of my clients as well. And that's why I wanted to do this episode. So maybe me not getting my phone was like a nudge from the universe to say, Katie, do an episode on impatience. Maybe, or maybe it was just me being an actual idiot and not just letting the flow of things happen. Who knows? So look, impatience is a major block to manifestation because what impatience does is it just leads to frustration and anxiety. And none of those things are conducive to actually getting what you want. Impatience disrupts the natural flow of manifestation and gives the universe the supreme ick. It distorts the manifesting mirror. Remember, everything that you do, everything that you are, everything that you think and believe is what's reflected back from the universal mirror. So when you really want something, but then you're matching that with impatience, it's distorting that reflection. And all you can get back is more opportunities to be impatient. Now, here's the interesting thing that I've noticed, both in my own life and again with my clients, is there's a couple of things that people tend to do when they get into this spiral of impatient thinking. The first one is they set a time limit, as I've already spoken about in my own dating life. If it doesn't happen by whatever date, then it's not going to happen. Now, what this does is it sets an unrealistic deadline on when something should appear in your life. And that feeds into one of the blocks that I talk to my community about, which is the logistics block. The logistics block is when you doubt something will come to you because it's not happening on your timeline. You're setting a deadline that's saying if something doesn't happen by this day or this time, then it's obviously not going to happen. But the thing is, what you have to remember is that other things usually have to shift in your favour behind the scenes before you can get what you want. So an example is a relationship. You might be thinking and doing all the right things to manifest a relationship, but then that impatience, that logistics block gets in the way. But for all you know, your perfect soulmate, the one that you were meant to be with, they might have stuff that they have to learn from other people in other relationships before they become the version of themselves that matches the energy that you're putting out. It doesn't mean you're not going to get the relationship. It just means that things have to shift in your favour before you can get what you want. So impatience is putting a limit on what you can get, because you're putting out there that you don't trust that something's on the way to you just because it's not there instantly. So stop setting a time limit because you don't know what's happening behind the scenes. Think of it like when you order something from an online shop. You place the order, you pay for it, you set your delivery expectation, and sometimes it arrives, sometimes it's a bit late, but you don't sit and worry about whether it's going to be delivered to you because you know it's coming. You've placed the order. Just because you can't see them packing your order, shipping your order, driving through the streets to get to you, it doesn't mean that it's not coming. It just means you can't see all of that back end process. And it's exactly the same in manifesting. When you want to manifest something, there'll be a lot of things that need to shift behind the scenes. For some things, that can take a longer period of time than for others. If, like me, you just wanted to manifest a new goddamn phone, that can happen in a few days. But if you wanted to manifest, I don't know, a multi-million pound business, that may not happen by the end of the week. It probably won't happen by the end of the week, but it doesn't mean it's not coming. So try to remove that logistics block of setting a time limit. Now, the other thing that people tend to do is around impatience is they turn it into a belief about themselves. If something doesn't happen in the timeline that they expected, a lot of people will turn it back on themselves. I'm not good enough. I'm not manifesting this correctly, or else it would be here by now. And this feeds into another block, which is called the worthiness block. And that is triggered very easily. It's basically you saying, If this doesn't happen, it's because of me. It's because I'm not good enough. It's because I'm not manifesting in the right way. If he doesn't call me back, or if she doesn't call me back, then it's because I'm not good enough to date. If I don't get this job that I've put in for, then it means I'm not good enough. You're feeding into the worthiness block. You're determining your worth based on how quickly or how slowly something will come to you. And my rebuttal to that worthiness block feeding is, what would you tell the child version of you, or even if you've got children, your own children, if they didn't get what they wanted straight away? I know as a parent that my daughter would often want things immediately, right then and there. Would I ever have turned around to her and said, well, you're not worthy of this, which is why you haven't got it straight away? No, of course not. So my question, if this is something that feels familiar to you, is why are you doing it to yourself as an adult? If you wouldn't tell your own children or the child version of you that the reason they haven't got something is because they're not good enough, or they're not doing the right things, then don't do it to yourself. And the interesting thing here is we only tend to do this with the big things. The big things in life, the relationship, the business, the money. Because when it comes to small things, we don't do this. We don't make it mean anything about ourselves. You know, if you're waiting for a takeaway to come, do you sit there if it's like 10 minutes past when it was supposed to be delivered and think, oh God, my takeaway hasn't arrived. I'm obviously not good enough to have my takeaway. No, because it's something small. But when you want a big life change, it's so easy to make it mean something about ourselves. And this is also putting a limit on what we think we can manifest. There's a secret belief hiding in there that you don't think you can actually get what you want, and it can come out in this worthiness block. I'm not good enough for this thing, which we don't have with the takeaway or the book from Amazon or the delivered clothing. We don't have that. If it doesn't come when we expect it to, we don't suddenly make that mean that we're not good enough. In universal terms, the size of what you want to manifest doesn't matter. You can manifest a mansion as easily as a shed. The timeline might be different, but you can manifest it just as easily. It's all about what you're putting out into that universal mirror. A lot of people ask me, what do you mean by universal mirror? And it's exactly as I say, look into a mirror and you see a reflection. When you manifest, all the universe is it's a mirror. It's a mirror of everything that happens inside you and the actions that you then use external to you. That's just reflected back. The universe sees that and thinks, that's what we're doing here, so let me give you more of that. If you have that constant worthiness block and belief that you're not good enough for something, all that will happen is you will stall your own manifestations, because the universe will say, okay, so what we're looking for here is more opportunities to demonstrate the fact that you're not good enough. So then more things won't arrive. More things will happen that make you feel the worthiness block. Always think about that mirror whenever you're in any situation. Am I being impatient? Okay, so that is the reflection that I'm going to get back. I'm going to get more opportunities to feel impatient. And look at what you're feeling impatient about. Because when it's a small thing, you obviously believe that you're good enough to have that thing, because you don't doubt that it's coming. You know it's yours. But when something feels a little bit scary, something feels big, that's when you start to delve into the worthiness block and think, maybe I'm not good enough for this. Maybe I can't have this. And that's when the impatience comes out, because you then set to prove to yourself, can I have this? Will this happen? Can I have it on the timeline that I'm expecting? Because that will prove to me that I'm worthy of it. So what happens if you keep being impatient? Well, it just projects negative energy. And as I've said, it just ends up repelling what you want. And all you get is more and more and more and more opportunities to reinforce the belief that you can't have it. When I was, I don't know, I felt I was acting like I was some contestant on The Bachelorette or something, and I was going out on dates all the time. But I would always have this impatience around meeting the right person, meeting the one. And before every day, I would think, oh, I bet this is going to be a disaster. I bet this isn't going to be the one. And I'd sit down, I'd start speaking to them, and I'd think within like 2 seconds, no, you're not the one. This is so annoying. I just want to meet the one. Why do I keep meeting all the wrong people all the time? Impatience, doubting my ability. All I'm putting out into the mirror at that point is keep giving me more people that reinforce this belief that I'm not going to meet the one. Manifestation requires a knowing that what you want is coming. And a prime example of that is athletes. Athletes, in their whole heart, have a belief that's so deep that they will be successful. The moment they start to doubt it, it undermines their performance. I see it a lot. I'm a huge boxing fan, and you see it a lot in fights where one of the fighters will gain the upper hand. They both come in, both with the attitude, I'm going to win, I'm going to win. They do all their trash talk beforehand, designed to knock the belief. But then if something happens within a fight and one gains an advantage, you can visibly see the tide turning within another fighter, and it can actually throw them off. Up until that point, all they've had in their mind is, this is mine to win. This is mine. I just need to go in there and do it. The moment they start doubting that, it undermines their performance. And that's the same with whatever you want to manifest. You have to have the knowing that what you want is coming. And as long as your identity and your actions and your beliefs are all backing that up, then it will come to you. Could it take a year? Yes. Could it take 2 years? Yes. Could it take 5 years? Yes. Some of the things I've really wanted to manifest have taken me years. But that's because things had to happen in the background, and I had to learn to stop being so bloody impatient. We can't have everything the moment we want it. It just doesn't work that way. Some things you can. Absolutely some things you can, when there's nothing in the way. But sometimes there are things that need to shift and move before you can get what you want. And just because that has to happen, it doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean you're not worthy of it. It doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong. It just means you need to bloody wait. Sound like my mother then. When I was a little kid, that's what I used to hear all the time. Wait, 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 wait. All the time. I was the most impatient child. Clearly it followed me into adulthood, as my mobile phone provider will tell you. But yeah, it just will disrupt your energy. You know, impatience creates a chaotic vibe. And I've kind of made a jokey title of this, saying it gives the universe the ick. Obviously the universe can't get the ick, but you know what I'm getting at. It creates this distorted, chaotic energy, like a calm lake reflects clearly, but the moment you add some ripples in, it just distorts reflections. And that's what happens in your own universal mirror. The universe will just completely throw back what it gets, whether that's distorted or not. So how do you reframe impatience? Well, it can be a lot easier than you might think. I'm speaking to this like I do it all the time. Obviously, we know now that I do not. I do not. I have to remind myself of these three things all the time. The first one is to reframe impatience to excitement. Rather than thinking, when is something going to come? Why isn't it here yet? Reframe it into excitement that something is coming. Because anticipation transforms your energy into positive, attractive forces. An example is a holiday. A lot of people will book a holiday up to a year in advance. They don't then spend the next year thinking, am I worthy of this holiday? Why is this holiday not here already? No, they've booked the holiday, and so they can just get excited about it. And the more excited you get, when you get it, it feels even sweeter. So reframe that impatience into excitement. Know that if you're putting in the inner work, if you're in alignment with what you want, then it has to come to you. How long it takes is none of your business. That's none of your business, how long something takes. All you have to focus on is what's happening internally. The second thing that you do, that I do, is try, this sounds really cheesy and I'm giving myself the shudders before I even say it, but it's true. So I'm going to say it anyway. Embrace the journey. I said it really quickly then. Embrace the journey. And again, look at the waiting time as an opportunity to discover more about yourself. Because each step that you're taking is bringing you closer to what you want without you even realising it. Training for a marathon, I mean, I've never done it because I will only run if somebody is chasing me or if there's a very handsome man waiting at the end of the run. So needless to say, I don't run very much. But if people train for a marathon, they will tell you that every practice run they do builds strength and endurance and gets them closer to that time that they want. And that's exactly the same when you embrace the journey of manifestation, and it's taking a long time. You're actually going on this journey of self-discovery. You're growing as a person. You're becoming even more in alignment with the person you need to be to get what you want. My mentor said something really interesting. We were talking about, it was a conversation about manifesting a lot of money. He went from nothing, like literally nothing, and within a number of years he became multi-millionaire. And we were talking about this thing about impatience, and he said, little did I know back then, I did not have the skills and the mindset to be able to cope with the level of money that I have now. I had to go on this self-discovery. I had to evolve as a person before I was ready. Because if I'd have got all of that money too soon, I would have just spanked it up the wall. It would have gone. I would have spent it frivolously. I wouldn't have looked after the money. So I couldn't have kept that money for the long term. So although there was this impatience that tried to come in, the way that he looked at it was, I'm still evolving and growing and getting ready for this thing. It's coming my way. But again, it goes back to there's things that need to happen before it can enter your life. So focus on that journey of getting closer. It's like your version of training for a marathon. Everything that you do is building strength, endurance, and getting you ready to get what you actually want. The third way to reframe impatience is just to bloody trust in divine timing. Trust in the universe's timing. You have to have that knowing that what you want will manifest, but only when the time is right. Imagine sitting there in winter when it's snowing and it's hideous weather and you're getting upset and impatient because your flowers haven't come into bloom yet. It sounds mad, doesn't it? You have to trust the timing of the seasons. You have to wait for the winter to pass before it can turn into spring. And even when you're in spring, you have to wait for flowers to bloom. The same is true in your manifesting. You have to trust that your version of winter will turn into spring, and what you want to manifest will happen. Whew, that was a big one, wasn't it? So that's all about impatience. Impatience in manifesting will give the universe the ick, and you won't get what you want. Or at the very best, you will just delay it for even longer. So like me, don't get annoyed when things don't get delivered on time. Don't make it mean something about you. And stop setting time limits. Just because something doesn't happen on your timeline, it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It just means that either something needs to happen in the background to get everything in alignment with what you need it to be, or it just means that you've still got some work to do to get into the right energy and the right alignment with whatever it is that you want to manifest.
So that's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me. If you've enjoyed listening, I'd be so grateful if you'd subscribe and leave a review, because it really does help me to reach more people. I've left some links in the show notes so you can connect with me, or you can grab one of my manifesting resources. Until next week, sending you lots of love, light and manifesting vibes.